Your Honor, this woman is clearly unfit to raise a child, the expensive lawyer declared, pointing dismissively at the woman sitting alone at the defendant's table. Look at her. Scars, behavioral issues, completely unstable. No child should be subjected to that environment. The smirks from the opposing legal team, the whispered comments from the gallery, the confident assumption that this was going to be an easy victory. They had no idea that the quiet woman they were dismantling was about to reveal something that would turn their entire case into dust. What happened when she finally stood up to defend herself would not only save her custody rights, but expose the true meaning of sacrifice and heroism. The metal hidden beneath her jacket would silence every voice in that courtroom. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If stories of mothers fighting for their children inspire you, consider subscribing to Silent Hero Stories for more tales of warriors who never stopped protecting what mattered most. The family court of Suffolk County buzzed with the routine tension of custody battles as Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen entered through the back doors. She wore a simple black blazer over dark jeans, her hair pulled into a practical ponytail. Nothing about her appearance suggesting the 17 years of military service that had defined her adult life. Sarah took her seat at the defendant's table alone, having chosen to represent herself against the battery of lawyers her ex-husband Michael had assembled. The decision wasn't financial. She could afford representation, but strategic. She wanted the judge to hear her story directly, without legal interpretation or sanitization. Judge Margaret Thornfield presided over the packed courtroom with efficient authority. At 58, she had seen countless custody disputes, but this case had attracted unusual attention due to Michael Chen's prominent position as a tech executive and his accusations about his ex-wife's military service affecting her parenting abilities. Case number 2024 FC 1847, Chen v. Chen, regarding custody of minor child Emma Chen, age 7, the clerk announced as the proceeding. Jonathan Westbrook approached the center of the courtroom with practiced theatricality, his expensive suit commanding attention as he prepared to dismantle Sarah's character piece by piece. Your Honor, the evidence will show that Sarah Chen is psychologically damaged by her military service and poses a direct threat to the safety and well-being of 7-year-old Emma, he declared, consulting his notes with dramatic flourish. Sarah maintained her composed posture, though her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She had anticipated this line of attack, but hearing it voiced in open court still stung. Ms. Chen suffers from documented PTSD, has violent outbursts, and displays erratic behavior that has already traumatized the child, Westbrook continued. She refuses psychiatric treatment, isolates herself from normal social interaction, and maintains an unhealthy obsession with military culture that is inappropriate for a young girl's development. Judge Thornfield looked up from her notes. Mr. Westbrook, do you have documentation to support these claims? Indeed, Your Honor. Westbrook gestured to his assistant, who began distributing thick folders to the court. Medical records, psychiatric evaluations, and witness testimony from neighbors, teachers, and family members all paint a disturbing picture of instability. Sarah watched as her private medical information was disseminated throughout the courtroom. The PTSD diagnosis from 3 years earlier, the therapy sessions she had attended faithfully, the medication she had taken briefly, all of it presented as evidence of her unfitness as a mother. Furthermore, Westbrook continued, Ms. Chen's living situation is completely inappropriate for a child. She resides in a basement apartment, works multiple low-paying jobs, and cannot provide the stability and resources that Mr. Chen can offer. Michael finally looked across the aisle at Sarah, his expression a mixture of guilt and determination. He genuinely believed he was protecting their daughter, convinced by his lawyers that Sarah's military service had fundamentally changed her into someone dangerous. Your Honor, Westbrook said, approaching his crescendo, Emma Chen deserves a normal childhood with a stable parent who can provide emotional security, educational opportunities, and a safe environment. Ms. Chen, despite whatever admirable service she may have provided to her country, is simply no longer capable of being the mother this child needs. The courtroom fell silent as Westbrook returned to his table, clearly satisfied with his opening presentation. Several observers in the gallery nodded approvingly, having been swayed by the authoritative delivery and documented evidence. Judge Thornfield turned her attention to Sarah. "Ms. Chen, you'll have the opportunity to respond to these allegations. Do you wish to make an opening statement?" Sarah rose slowly, her movement carrying the unconscious precision that 17 years of military service had ingrained in her muscle memory. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady, despite the emotional weight of the accusations. "Your Honor, I love my daughter more than my own life. Everything I have done, including my military service, has been to make the world safer for her generation. I am not perfect, and I do not deny that I carry scars from my service to this country. But those scars do not make me unfit to be Emma's mother. They make me uniquely qualified to protect her." She paused, scanning the courtroom before continuing. "Mr. Westbrook has presented a very selective interpretation of my medical records and personal circumstances. What he has not told you is that every doctor, every therapist, and every professional who has evaluated me has concluded that I am a devoted, capable mother who puts her daughter's well-being above everything else." Judge Thornfield nodded approvingly at Sarah's measured response. "Ms. Chen, we'll hear your full presentation after Mr. Westbrook completes his case. Mr. Westbrook, please call your first witness." "Your Honor, I call Dr. Margaret Silverman, child psychologist, who evaluated Emma Chen and observed disturbing patterns in the child's behavior directly attributable to her mother's influence." Dr. Margaret Silverman took the witness stand with the confident bearing of someone who had testified in hundreds of custody cases. Her credentials were impeccable. Harvard-trained child psychologist with 25 years of experience in family court evaluations. "Dr. Silverman," Westbrook began, "please tell the court about your evaluation of Emma Chen." "I conducted a comprehensive assessment over 3 sessions, Doctor," Silverman replied, consulting her notes. "Emma exhibits several concerning behavioral patterns that suggest exposure to trauma and instability in her home environment." Sarah watched carefully as the psychologist testified, noting inconsistencies between the clinical description and her own observations of her daughter's behavior. Specifically, Emma demonstrates hypervigilance, difficulty with authority figures, and what I would characterize as premature emotional maturity, Dr. Silverman continued. "These are classic indicators of a child who has been forced to adapt to an unpredictable or threatening environment." Judge Thornfield leaned forward with interest. "Doctor, did Emma directly express concerns about her mother?" "Not in explicit terms, but children rarely do. However, when asked to draw pictures of her family, Emma consistently depicted her mother in military uniforms with weapons. This suggests an unhealthy preoccupation with violence that the child has absorbed from her environment." Sarah felt her composure slip for the first time. Emma's drawings weren't about violence. They were expressions of pride in her mother's service. The 7-year-old had spent hours carefully coloring military insignia because she thought they were beautiful. "Furthermore," Dr. Silverman added, "Emma exhibits what I call caretaker syndrome, where she feels responsible for managing her mother's emotional state. This is an inappropriate burden for any child and indicates serious dysfunction in the parent-child relationship." Westbrook nodded sympathetically. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, would Emma benefit from a more stable living environment?" "Absolutely. Mr. Chen can provide the consistency, emotional security, and normal childhood experiences that Emma desperately needs. The mother's military background, while perhaps admirable in other contexts, has created an environment that is simply not conducive to healthy child development. Sarah's hands clenched involuntarily beneath the table. The psychologist was describing a completely different child than the confident, happy daughter she knew. Judge Thornfield addressed Sarah directly. "Ms. Chen, do you wish to cross-examine this witness?" Sarah stood, drawing on every ounce of military discipline to maintain her professional demeanor. "Dr. Silverman, how many sessions did you spend with Emma?" 3 comprehensive evaluations over the course of 6 weeks. "And how much time have you spent observing Emma in her natural environment with me?" Dr. Silverman hesitated. "The evaluation was conducted in my office, which is standard protocol." "So you've never actually seen Emma and me interact in our home?" "That wasn't necessary for the evaluation." Sarah moved closer to the witness stand. "Doctor, are you familiar with military families and the unique dynamics they develop?" "I have some general knowledge, but that's not relevant to this specific case." "Did you know that Emma's hypervigilance might actually be the natural result of growing up with a parent who taught her to be aware of her surroundings for safety reasons?" Westbrook objected. "Your Honor, Ms. Chen is not qualified to provide expert testimony on child psychology." "Sustained," Judge Thornfield ruled. "Ms. Chen, please limit your questions to the witness's actual observations." Sarah nodded respectfully. "Dr. Silverman, you mentioned that Emma draws me in military uniform. Did you ask her why?" "Children's motivations for their artistic choices are often subconscious. But did you ask her directly what those drawings meant to her?" Dr. Silverman consulted her notes uncomfortably. "Not specifically, no." "So you interpreted her artwork without actually understanding her perspective?" "My professional experience allows me to interpret behavioral indicators without requiring explicit verbal confirmation from a 7-year-old. Sarah paused, studying the psychologist carefully. "Doctor, have you ever served in the military or worked extensively with veteran families?" "No, but that's not relevant to child psychology." "Thank you, doctor. No further questions." As Dr. Silverman left the witness stand, Sarah could see uncertainty beginning to creep into Judge Thornfield's expression. The psychologist's testimony, while professionally delivered, had revealed significant gaps in understanding. After Dr. Silverman's testimony concluded, Judge Thornfield called for a brief recess. During the break, Sarah remained at her table, reviewing her notes and preparing for what she knew would be the most important presentation of her life. When court resumed, Westbrook called 2 more witnesses, a neighbor who claimed Sarah was antisocial and strange, and a school administrator who testified about Emma's occasional behavioral issues. Each witness painted a picture of a troubled child, being raised by an unstable mother. Finally, Judge Thornfield turned to Sarah. "Ms. Chen, you may now present your case." Sarah stood with the bearing that had once commanded respect from soldiers under her command. "Your Honor, I'd like to call my first witness, Emma Chen." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. It was unusual for a 7-year-old to testify in custody proceedings, but not unprecedented. "Objection," Westbrook called out. "The child is too young to understand the implications of her testimony." "Your Honor," Sarah responded, "Emma is articulate, intelligent, and has the right to have her voice heard in proceedings that will determine her future." Judge Thornfield considered this carefully. "I'll allow limited testimony from the child, but I reserve the right to stop the questioning if I determine it's not in her best interest." Emma entered the courtroom holding the hand of a court advocate, her small frame dwarfed by the formal setting. Despite her age, she walked with confidence, her chin raised in a gesture that mirrored her mother's military bearing. "Hi, Emma," Sarah said gently as her daughter took the witness stand. "Are you nervous?" "A little," Emma replied honestly. "But you always tell me to be brave when something's important." Sarah smiled, the first genuine expression of joy the courtroom had seen from her. "That's right. Emma, can you tell the judge about our bedtime routine?" "Every night, Mommy reads me a story, and then she tells me about the places she's been and the people she helped when she was a soldier. She shows me pictures of hospitals she helped build and schools where she taught children to read. Emma's voice grew stronger as she continued. Mommy says her job was to protect people who couldn't protect themselves, and now she protects me the same way. Judge Thornfield leaned forward with interest. Emma, do you ever feel scared when you're with your mother? No, Your Honor. Mommy makes me feel the safest I've ever felt. She taught me how to be strong and how to help other people who are sad or scared. Westbrook shifted uncomfortably as Emma's testimony contradicted the narrative he had constructed about a traumatized child. Emma, Sarah continued, can you tell the judge about the drawings Dr. Silverman mentioned? Emma's face lit up. Oh, those! I draw Mommy in her uniform because she looks so pretty and brave. She has medals that mean she helped save people, and I want to be just like her when I grow up. Do those drawings make you think about violence or scary things? No way. They make me think about heroes. Mommy is my hero because she went far away to help people, and then she came home to take care of me. The simplicity and sincerity of Emma's words created a profound silence in the courtroom. Several observers wiped away tears as they witnessed the genuine bond between mother and daughter. Emma, Judge Thornfield asked gently, if you could choose where to live, what would make you happiest? Without hesitation, Emma replied, I want to live with Mommy. She understands me, and she teaches me to be brave and kind. Daddy is nice, but he doesn't know how to braid my hair or sing the songs Mommy learned when she was helping other kids in faraway places. Sarah felt her throat tighten with emotion as her daughter's words revealed the depth of their connection. Thank you, Emma, Sarah said softly. You can go sit with Mrs. Rodriguez now. As Emma left the witness stand, she paused to wave at her mother, a gesture that conveyed more love and trust than any expert testimony could provide. After Emma's testimony, Sarah called her second witness, Colonel James Morrison, her former commanding officer. The distinguished officer entered the courtroom in dress uniform, his chest adorned with ribbons that spoke of decades of honorable service. Colonel Morrison, Sarah began, can you describe my service record? Lieutenant Colonel Chen served with extraordinary distinction for 17 years, Morrison replied, his voice carrying the authority of command. She completed 4 combat deployments, commanded a field hospital unit, and received numerous commendations for her medical and leadership abilities. Westbrook objected. Your Honor, military service record is not relevant to parenting ability. I'll allow it, Judge Thornfield ruled, clearly interested in understanding the complete picture. Colonel Morrison continued, what many people don't understand about military service is that it teaches you to put others' needs before your own, to remain calm under pressure, and to make life or death decisions with limited information. These are exactly the qualities that make someone an exceptional parent. Sarah felt a surge of gratitude toward her former commander, but she knew the most difficult part was still coming. Colonel Morrison, are you familiar with the circumstances that led to my medical discharge? The colonel's expression grew solemn. Yes, I am. Lieutenant Colonel Chen was wounded while evacuating civilians from a bombed hospital in Afghanistan. She refused medical treatment until all 37 civilians were safely transported to our base. A hush fell over the courtroom as the true story began to emerge. Can you describe her injuries? Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the personal cost of this revelation. Shrapnel wounds to her back, arms, and legs, a concussion from the blast. But most significantly, she carried a wounded child for 2 miles through enemy territory to reach medical help. The child survived because of her actions. Judge Thornfield's expression had completely transformed as she understood the source of Sarah's scars and PTSD diagnosis. Your Honor, Sarah said, turning to address the court directly, Mr. Westbrook has presented my medical records as evidence of instability. I'd like to provide the complete context. She slowly removed her blazer, revealing arms marked by surgical scars and skin grafts. The gallery gasped as they saw the physical evidence of her sacrifice. These scars are not signs of violence or instability, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. They are proof that I will do anything to protect innocent people, especially children. The PTSD diagnosis that Mr. Westbrook cited came from my unwillingness to abandon others in danger, even at the cost of my own safety. She reached into her jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Your Honor, this was never about my military service being a liability. This was about revealing the truth of what that service represents. Sarah opened the box, revealing the distinctive purple ribbon and gold heart of the Purple Heart Medal. The courtroom fell into complete silence as the weight of her sacrifice became clear. I received this medal for actions taken while protecting children, the same protective instinct that guides every decision I make as Emma's mother. Colonel Morrison added, Your Honor, Lieutenant Colonel Chen didn't just serve her country with distinction. She embodies the values of selfless service, integrity, and commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. These are exactly the qualities you want in a parent. Michael Chen, who had been silent throughout the proceedings, stared at the Purple Heart with a mixture of recognition and regret. He had known about Sarah's medal, but had allowed his lawyers to portray her military service as a weakness rather than the profound strength it represented. Judge Thornfield leaned back in her chair, clearly processing the complete reversal of everything she had heard during Westbrook's presentation. Ms. Chen, she said quietly, why didn't you present this information at the beginning of the proceedings? Sarah carefully returned the medal to its box. Because I wanted the court to judge me as a mother first, not as a decorated veteran. But when my fitness as a parent was questioned based on selective interpretation of my service-related injuries, I felt it necessary to provide the complete truth. The silence in the courtroom stretched for nearly 30 seconds as everyone absorbed the magnitude of Sarah's revelation. Judge Thornfield stared at the Purple Heart Medal, understanding that she was looking at evidence of the highest level of sacrifice for others. Westbrook attempted to regain control of his crumbling case. Your Honor, while we respect Ms. Chen's military service, this doesn't address the fundamental question of her current psychological state and parenting ability. Before Judge Thornfield could respond, the courtroom doors opened and a woman in a Navy uniform entered quietly, taking a seat in the back row. Sarah recognized her immediately. Commander Lisa Rodriguez, the military family liaison officer she had requested as a backup witness. Mr. Westbrook, Judge Thornfield said, her tone noticeably cooler than before, I think we need to reconsider the entire framework of this case. Ms. Chen, do you have additional witnesses? Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call Commander Rodriguez to the stand. Commander Rodriguez approached with crisp military bearing, her uniform displaying ribbons that indicated extensive service in family support and counseling roles. Commander Rodriguez, Sarah began, are you familiar with military families transitioning to civilian life? It's my specialty, Your Honor. I've worked with over 300 veteran families dealing with reintegration challenges. Lieutenant Colonel Chen's case is actually a model of successful transition. Westbrook objected. Your Honor, this witness wasn't disclosed in advance. Given the serious mischaracterizations presented earlier, Judge Thornfield replied, I'm going to allow this testimony. Continue, Commander. The PTSD diagnosis that's been presented as evidence of unfitness is actually proof of successful treatment, Rodriguez explained. Lieutenant Colonel Chen sought help immediately, participated in all recommended therapy, and developed healthy coping mechanisms. Her willingness to address her trauma professionally demonstrates exactly the kind of responsible parenting we hope to see." She turned to address the judge directly. "Your Honor, I've observed Ms. Chen and Emma together on multiple occasions through our family support programs. Their relationship is one of the strongest, most nurturing bonds I've encountered in 15 years of this work." Michael Chen suddenly stood up, his face pale with realization. "Your Honor, I need to say something." Judge Thornfield looked surprised. "Mr. Chen, this is highly irregular." "I understand, but I can't let this continue." Michael's voice shook with emotion. "My lawyers, they told me to emphasize Sarah's military service as a negative. They said it would make her seem dangerous and unstable." Westbrook tried to silence his client. "Michael, please sit down. We need to discuss this privately." "No," Michael said firmly. "I've been lying to myself and to this court. Sarah isn't unstable. She's the strongest person I know. She saved children in Afghanistan, and she's an amazing mother to Emma. I was angry about the divorce, and I let them convince me that her service made her unfit." The courtroom erupted in murmurs as Michael's admission destroyed the foundation of his own case. Judge Thornfield called for order. "Mr. Chen, are you saying that the allegations about your ex-wife's fitness as a mother were exaggerated?" "They were completely false," Michael replied, tears in his eyes. "Sarah has never been anything but devoted to Emma. The therapy, the PTSD treatment, she did all of that to be the best mother possible. I was wrong to challenge her custody." Sarah stared at her ex-husband in shock, not having expected this moment of honesty from him. "Furthermore," Michael continued, "Emma adores her mother. Taking her away from Sarah would be the cruelest thing I could do to my own daughter." Westbrook gathered his papers with obvious frustration, realizing his case had completely collapsed. Judge Thornfield looked between the former spouses with a mixture of relief and concern. "Mr. Chen, what exactly are you proposing?" "I withdraw my petition for full custody. Sarah should have primary custody, and I'd like to work out a fair visitation schedule that's best for Emma." Judge Thornfield took a moment to compose herself before addressing the dramatically transformed courtroom. The case that had begun as a bitter custody battle had evolved into something entirely different, a story of truth, sacrifice, and the courage to do what's right. "This court finds itself in a unique position," Judge Thornfield began. "We've witnessed not only the presentation of evidence, but a profound demonstration of character from all parties involved." She turned her attention to Sarah first. "Ms. Chen, Lieutenant Colonel Chen, your service to this country and your devotion to your daughter are beyond question. The Purple Heart you received represents the highest level of sacrifice for others, and that same protective instinct clearly guides your parenting." Sarah stood at attention, Emma's small hand slipping into hers as her daughter had quietly returned to her side during the emotional testimony. "Mr. Chen," the judge continued, "your willingness to acknowledge the truth, despite the personal cost, demonstrates the kind of integrity that serves everyone's best interests, especially Emma's." Michael nodded, unable to speak as he watched his daughter cling to her mother. Judge Thornfield's voice grew stronger as she delivered her ruling. "This court awards primary physical custody to Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, with Mr. Chen receiving generous visitation rights. More importantly, this court strongly recommends family counseling to help all parties rebuild the trust and communication necessary for successful co-parenting." The gallery erupted in spontaneous applause, with several observers wiping away tears at the emotional resolution. "Furthermore," Judge Thornfield added, "I want to address something that concerns me deeply about these proceedings. The systematic attempt to portray military service and combat-related PTSD as disqualifying factors for parenthood is not only wrong, it's dangerous to the thousands of veteran families in our community." She looked directly at Westbrook, who had remained conspicuously silent since his case collapsed. Officers of this court have a responsibility to present cases based on truth, not on prejudice against those who have served our country. Colonel Morrison stood and saluted Sarah as the formal proceedings concluded. Commander Rodriguez approached to congratulate her on the successful outcome and invite her to speak at upcoming military family workshops. Emma tugged on her mother's blazer. "Mommy, does this mean we get to stay together?" Sarah knelt down to her daughter's eye level, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going home together. And Daddy can visit, and maybe we can all have dinner sometimes?" Michael approached slowly, his expression humble. "Emma, would you like that?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. "Daddy, did you know Mommy is a real hero? She has a medal that proves it." Michael's eyes met Sarah's over their daughter's head. "Yes, Emma, I know that now, and I'm sorry it took me so long to remember." 3 months later, Sarah stood before a packed auditorium at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center, sharing her story with other military families facing custody challenges. The Purple Heart was displayed prominently on the podium beside her, no longer hidden but serving as a symbol of the strength that military families possess. "The most important thing I learned," she told the audience, "is that our service to our country doesn't end when we take off the uniform. The same values that made us good soldiers, courage, integrity, selfless service, these are exactly the qualities that make us good parents." Emma sat in the front row, beaming with pride as her mother spoke. Beside her, Michael took notes, preparing for his own presentation about the importance of supporting veteran parents. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If stories of courage, truth, and second chances moved you, consider subscribing to Silent Hero Stories for more tales of hidden warriors, whose greatest battles are often fought for their families. Have you ever had to fight for what matters most to you? Share your stories of courage in the comments below. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is tell the truth, even when it's difficult.